अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन। क्या हाल चाल हैं आप लोगों के? अच्छा, so you guys will find the link in the description. Okay, so check the link in description. If you can't see it right now, just refresh it, you will see it there. Okay, and जब मिल जाए आप लोगों को तो प्लीज़ मुझे बताइएगा. Have you all found the link? Can I attempt this mock if I'm an art math student? Yeah, you can do it at your own risk, but don't you have better things to do? I'm good, alhamdulillah. Acha, got the link. चलें, अच्छी बात है. Acha, just refresh. If you can't see the link is in description. If you don't see it, just refresh the stream. You will find it there. ठीक है? Yeah, go ahead. Start. I'll give you guys 10 minutes extra. ठीक है? So that in case you guys want to print it or something, अगर किसी ने करना है तो कर लें. ओके, सब कंफर्म कर दें कि लिंक मिल गई है ना? चलो, अच्छा, थैंक यू फरहान. सेट यू लाइक कंसिडरिंग के 2 दिन में आप लोगों का एग्ज़ाम है, उस हिसाब से तो आप लोग काफ़ी चिल हैं. चलें, अच्छी बात है. If that's the case, do we come back for checking? Yeah, so basically after 2 hours, inshallah, in this live stream we will discuss it. Okay, so after 2 hours, that is around 9:15. Okay, so around 9:15 we will discuss the mock. Link is in the description. If you can't find the link, just refresh it. Okay, and please, before you guys start, I would really appreciate if you like the stream and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Sir, why is everyone here after Minahil? Are you? I don't know who that is. Khair, paper 13. Sir, I worked. Khair, anyway, abhi zyada, now is not the time to cry about what's happened in the practical. Let's focus on what's left. Okay, what's done is done. Download nahi ho raha, aisa nahi hona chahiye. I mean, what difference does it make if you can't download it? वैसे तो it should be downloadable. Okay, just refresh the stream. Yeah, you guys can start. Okay, you guys can start, and I won't be here obviously for 2 hours, so good luck to you all. We'll connect inshallah after 2 hours, at around 9:15 9:30 हम इसको discuss करेंगे. ठीक है? Okay, so good luck to all of you. Please don't cheat, and if you do cheat, the only person you're fooling is you yourself. Simple. अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन, क्या हाल है आप लोगों के? So, how was the mock? ये वाला कौन सा क्वेश्चन है? सर रोना. Yeah, this session will be uploaded, don't worry. Was lengthy? Okay. Maybe, like, if not 1 hour 50 minutes, maybe 1 hour 55 minutes at max. Sir, I think you were the examiner, you would have made all 75 marks to win and range. I just joined 20 minutes before, so I could only do till 4, sadly. Well, you can do it now and watch this stream later. Okay, so this stream will be saved, don't worry about it. Kind of unrealistic exam? No. How is this an unrealistic exam? So these were all past paper questions, and the reason why I give from past papers is so that you guys don't end up saying, okay, these kind of questions don't come in the exam, or these are unrealistic questions. So that's why whenever I make a mock exam, I always make it from past papers. Although it's a mixture. Okay, it's a mixture. Okay, so let's start. Kya khayal hai? Let's start. So this stream will be saved, so you don't have to worry about it, as in if you want to watch it later. And once we're done, I will also upload the solution. ठीक है? Sir, please do a boxing match with Sir Zain. चलें आप लोग venue decide करें. Start with the promotions. I'll speak to Sir Zain. ठीक है? Break तो दे तो दिया मैंने break. I've already given you guys a break, and I gave you guys more time than needed. ठीक है? अच्छा, थ्रेशोल्ड एक काम करते हैं, अभी से आप लोग थ्रेशोल्ड की ना फिक्र करें. अभी पहले हम पेपर सॉल्व कर लें, फिर थ्रेशोल्ड की बात करेंगे. ठीक है? Yeah, I'll discuss all questions. Okay, I will discuss all questions. So let's start. Let's start with the easy ones. क्या ख्याल है? Or let's just go in order. Okay. Now, before I start, I would really appreciate if you guys like this stream, if you haven't done that yet, and also do subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that either. Okay. Now, I'm not going to tell you all the answers. We're just going to solve all the questions. Okay. I'm not going to tell you the answers. Nahi to phir it's not going to be fun. Let's just solve all the questions. Okay. So find the set of values of m for which the line of equation y equals to mx plus minus 3 and the curve with equation so and so do not meet. Okay, so the keyword here is do not meet. Okay, so first of all, we have the equation of a straight line, y equals to mx minus 3 and y is equals to 2x square plus 5. So let's equate them. Mx minus 3 is equals to 2x square minus 5. Let's shift all the terms to the right hand side. So you have 2x square minus mx, okay, and then minus 5 plus 3 is equals to 0, which means you have 2x square minus mx minus 5 plus 3, that's equal to minus 2 equals to 0. Okay, now those of you who end up making silly errors, please check as you go along. Okay, check as you go along. It's not a good idea to leave to think that you will have time towards the end, as if I'm pretty sure you guys saw right now that you didn't have time towards the end. Yeah, it's plus 5, sorry. So plus 5 minus 3, so that means it's going to be equal to plus 8. See, so that's what I was talking about. Check as you go along. Don't think that you will have time towards the end to do it. Okay, so there you go. I've made that correction. Now, do not meet means b square minus 4ac will be less than 0. And set of values of m means that you're most likely going to end up with a range, multiple values, or perhaps a range. So b square means minus m squared minus 4 times 2 times 8, which is less than 0. So m square minus 64 is less than 0. Now for a minute, let's solve this like a quadratic equation. So m square minus 64 is equals to 0. So m square is equals to 64. That means m is equals to plus minus 8. Okay. What do we want? We want the range where the graph is below the x-axis. Okay, this is a quadratic inequality that we have ended up with, and we want the part of the curve that's below the x-axis. So this is -8, this is +8. Achha, how do I know that we want the part of the curve that's below the x-axis? Because of the range that we were given. We were given less than 0. So that means m is greater than -8, less than +8. There you go. Okay. Meets means greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so that's a good question. If let's say the question said meets, okay, so meets would be that greater than or equal to 0. Okay, sir, can you share marking scheme so we can check by ourselves? So beta, I am solving it. Okay, and then you can look. I'll upload the solved version, and then you can use that to check it. Okay, but since it's a mixture of different papers, so I don't have the marking scheme with me. Do we have to sketch the graph? So when you're solving a quadratic inequality, it's always a good idea to sketch the graph. Okay, if you want to make sure, if you want to get it right. Okay, if you have some other method, there are other methods also, but I think the best method is to do it by quadratic inequality. So मेरे तो आपको यही suggestion है कि आप quadratic inequality बना के इसको solve करें. Okay, now. In the expansion of so-and-so, the coefficient of x power 6 and the coefficient of x cube are equal. Now here we have x in both terms. What do we do when we have x in both terms? We have to find out the value of r. Now how will we find out the value of r? We'll use 6er 2x square raised to the power 6 minus r and a upon x raised to the power of r. Okay, so first let's simplify. So 6er को हम थोड़ी देर के लिए ignore कर देते हैं, 2 को भी हम थोड़ी देर के लिए ignore करते हैं. Okay, so let's ignore all this for a minute. So we have x square raised to the power 6 minus r, and then we have x power minus 1 raised to the power of r. Now we want this to be equal to x power 6, and we also want this to be equal to x power 3. So that we have we know what the value of r should be if I want the coefficient of x power 6, and I know what the value of r should be if I want the coefficient of x cube. So this becomes x raised to the power 12 minus 2r into x raised to the power minus r, which is equal to x power 6. So this becomes x raised to the power 12 minus 3r, which is equal to x raised to the power of 6. So we ignore the x's. We have 12 minus 3r, which is equal to 6. That means 3r is equals to 6, which means r is equals to 2. Now r is equal to 2 is basically the 2 is basically the value of r that will give you the coefficient of x power 6. Okay, now here we already know what the left-hand side simplifies to. We know that it simplifies to 12 minus 3r, so no need to do all the work all over again. So we're simply going to start from here. So 12 minus 3r is equals to 3. That means 3r is equals to 9, which means r is equals to 3. Okay, so we're going to use r as 3 and 2. That will give us the coefficient of x power 6 and coefficient of x cube. Achha, I'll take your questions, sir. Can't we do this? Okay, so there are, so listen, I'm not by any means saying that my method is the best method. This is the method that if you go over my videos, this is the method that I've done, and this is the method that I prefer. If you have some other method and you're comfortable with it and you get the right answer every single time, then you can stick to it. That's perfectly all right. Okay, I generally prefer this method. So if I use r as 2, so that would be 6c2 2x squared raised to the power 6 minus 2, which is equal to 4, a upon x raised to the power of 2. Okay, so let's simplify this. Let's see what do we get. 6c2 is 15. 15 into 16 x power 8 multiplied by a square upon x square. Okay, so x should simplify to x power 6. If it doesn't, that means the value of r is wrong. So what's 15 times 16? 15 times 16 is 240, I believe. Yep, that's 240. X power 8 upon x square simplifies to x power 6, so 240 a square x power 6. But because we just want the coefficient, so we're just going to ignore x power 6. Okay? Achha. Then let's use r as 3, so that would be 6c3 2x square raised to the power of 3 a upon x raised to the power of 3. So 6c3, that's equal to 20. So 20 times 2 cube is 8. 8x power 6 into a cube upon x cube. Now what does this simplifies to? 20 times 8 is 160. So 160 a cube, x power 6 upon x power 3. That's x power 3. But because we just want the coefficient, so, we're good here. Okay, so just so you guys know, यहाँ पे हमारे पास आ रहा था x power 6 और यहाँ पे हमारे पास आ रहा है x power cube. But what are we interested in? We're only interested in the coefficient. And according to the question, what is the deal with the coefficients? They're equal. So that means 240a square is equals to 160a cube. Now let's move all the terms to the left hand side. 240a square minus 160a cube is equals to 0. Now let's take, first let's not cross out. In fact, we should have crossed out the 0 earlier, but chalo koi baat nahi. We can take 80 common, 80 along with a square common. So if I do that, we have 3 minus 2a equals to 0. So 80a square equals to 0. So obviously this will give us a equals to 0. That's not the value that we want. That doesn't make sense. And then 3 minus 2a is equals to 0, which will give us a is equals to 3 upon 2. And that is the correct answer. There you go. Okay, notice that the question said find the value of the non-zero constant a. ठीक है, so learn to pick hints from the question. अगर सवाल आपको बोल रहा है कि find the non-zero value, इसका मतलब कुछ गड़बड़ है. इसका मतलब गड़बड़ नहीं, इसका मतलब कि that when we solve, we're likely to get one answer as 0. Sir, please explain the first question curve part. So quadratic inequality. If you missed it, then just go back to the stream. You can rewind the stream. So go back and watch it again. If you're unaware of the concept, तो बेटा मैं 10 दफ़े भी समझा दूँ तो आपको नहीं समझ आएगा. ठीक है? So you need to learn how to solve quadratic inequalities in order to be able to solve that question. Okay? Now, if you know some other method, you can do that. If you did not get 0, that's perfectly all right. If let's say you directly wrote 3 upon 2, that's perfectly all right. You'll get full marks. Okay? You'll get full marks. All right. Now, find the coefficient of x power 6 in the expansion of so-and-so. So 1 minus x cube. Okay, now the good thing about this question is that it has already made you do the hard work. You already know the coefficient of x power 6. So don't forget that now that we know what the value of a is, so we're going to have to use that value. So that means 240, 3 upon 2 squared x power 6. So this is the coefficient of x power 6. Okay. And then plus 160 a cube, which means 3 upon 2 cubed x cubed. Okay, so first इसको simplify कर लेते हैं. So let's keep 1 minus x cube as it is. So let's find out what is 240 bracket open 3 upon 2 the whole thing squared. That's equal to 540. So this is 540 x raised to the power 6 plus 160 bracket open 3 upon 2 bracket close the whole thing raised to the power of 3. So that's also okay. ये फजूल था करना. I just realized because they're both equal anyway. So 540 x cube. चलो इससे हमारा check हो गया कि equal आ रहे हैं नहीं आ रहे. So since we want the coefficient of x power 6, so we'll multiply this by 540. So 540 and then we'll multiply this by 540. So this would be equal to minus 540 x power 6. And what's the answer? The answer is 0. ठीक है? अच्छा, you may be thinking कि ये तो हम directly कर सकते थे. And you're right. You could have done this directly. Okay, but I don't know how many of you this occurred that we can do this directly. If it occurred to you, that's great. If it didn't, then there's no shame in doing some extra work as long as you're confident that you've done it correctly. Okay? So how many of you did this directly? Just say yes. And how many of you are getting full marks so far? We've solved 2 questions. How many of you are getting full marks so far? You are? चलें, अच्छी बात है. खैर वैसे we've only done the easy questions now. The sum Sn of the first n terms of an arithmetic progression is given by so and so. Okay. The kth term in the progression is greater than 200. Find the smallest possible value of k. Okay, so we have to find out which term is equal to 200 and the term after that will basically be greater than 200. Okay. Now you may be thinking that we're given the sum formula. So how will we find out the first term and the common difference? Question for you guys. Since we're given the sum formula, how will we find out the first term and the common difference? So just use your common sense. If you find out the sum of the first term is technically the first term itself. So that's 1 plus 4, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 5. Okay? So first term, the sum of the first term is basically the first term itself. Okay? If you find out the sum of the first 2 terms, so that would be 2 square plus 4 times 2. So 2 square is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 4, what's that equal to? That's equal to 12. ठीक है, अब देखो थोड़ी अकल इस्तेमाल कर लो. ये first term है. You don't know what the second term is, but you do know that their sum is equal to 12. Okay, you know that their sum is equal to 12. So what's the second term going to be? No need to use some fancy formula. Just use your common sense. The sum of the first two terms is equals to 12. So that means this term would be 12 minus 5, which is equal to 7. Simple. ठीक है, ये नहीं कि सर इसका कोई फॉर्मूला बता दें, इसकी कोई ट्रिक बता दें. ट्रिक ये है कि सिर्फ दिमाग इस्तेमाल कर लो. That's it. So you have the first term, which is 5, and you have the common difference, which is equal to 2. Okay? Now, you are basically looking for a term that's equal to 200. Okay? So, what will be the nth term formula? A plus n minus 1 into d. Okay, so the kth term would be 5 plus k minus 1 into the common difference, which is equal to 200. अच्छा, आप इसको greater than 200 भी set कर सकते हैं. Okay, you can set it greater than 200 also. That's also perfectly all right. So basically 5 plus 2k minus 2 is equals to 200. So let's solve for 2k. So 2k would be equal to 200 plus 2 minus 5. That's equal to 197. So 197 divided by 2, that's equal to 98.5. So k is equals to 98.5. So that means it's the 98.5th term, which is equal to 200, which obviously doesn't make sense. Now, what do we want? We want the smallest possible term that is greater than 200. Okay, so iska kya answer hoga? What's the smallest possible integer greater than 98.5? That's equal to 99. Okay, so the 98.5th term is equal to 200, which obviously doesn't make sense. So that means the first term that's actually greater than 200 is the 99th term. Okay, so there you go. Now, let's see what's next. Question number 4. A curve has equation y is equals to 3 cos 2x plus 2 for x is greater than or equal to 0, lesser than or equal to pi. State the greatest and the least values of y. Now, you can do this by making the graph. Acha, here's my advice. Since you are asked to draw a graph anywhere, so might as well draw the graph. Kya khayal hai? Might as well draw the graph first. Although you don't need the graph to solve this, but you could. Okay, you can make your life easy by drawing the graph first. Okay, and it's not as if you're going to be penalized or something. Okay, you can attempt the paper in whatever order you like. So the greatest and the least value. How will we find out the greatest and the least value? Let's draw the graph. So notice that the graph that we're supposed to draw is only from 0 to pi. Okay, so keep that in mind. So here's pi, here's pi upon 2, here's 0. Okay, and notice we are supposed to basically draw the graph of 3 cos 2x plus 2. Okay, so that means the step that we will take, okay, so the step that we normally take is pi upon 2, but now the step also gets divided by 2, so that means we will take a step of pi upon 4, which basically means that we will plug in values after every pi upon 4 interval. ठीक है, अब आपने हो सकता है इसको किसी और मेथड से किया हो, आपने हो सकता है you might have done it through baseline method or stuff like that. I don't like that. Okay, this is the method that I like. You can find this method in my notes. You can download it from the website mathletebysart.com. This is the method that I prefer. Okay, so I'm going to now plug in values with. So I'm going to plug in pi upon 4. I'm going to plug in pi upon 2, 3 upon 4 pi, and pi. Okay. अच्छा, make sure that your calculator is in radian mode. मैं सामने कर देता हूँ आप लोगों के. अच्छा, अब I know कुछ होशियार लोग बोलेंगे कि सर आप table feature भी use कर सकते हैं. Now the problem that I have with table feature is, okay, let's sit through this ad first. The problem that I have with table feature is that if it's in radian, तो पता है problem क्या होती है? तो problem ये होती है कि आप you don't see values in terms of pi, you see values in decimal. Okay, that's the problem. So let's just do it normally. 3 cos, make sure that your calculator is in radian mode. There you go. So 3 cos 2 bracket mein, make a fraction. Let's plug in pi upon 4. Okay, so close the bracket, plus 2. So at pi upon 4, we get 2. Achha, I forgot to plug in 0, by the way. So chalo, let's do this first. If you plug in 0, you'll probably get 5. Okay, but let's just do it anyway. If you plug in 0, you will get 5. Yeah, there you go. So if you plug in 0, you get 5. Okay. Now let's plug in pi upon 2. So pi upon 2 gives us -1. So -1 is going to be somewhere over here. Even though it's a sketch, but try and be as accurate as possible anyway. So this is pi upon 2 -1 somewhere over here. Then let's plug in 3 pi upon 4. So 3 pi upon 4, which is equal to 2 once again. And then pi will give you 5 once again. And there you go. And now you can see that the greatest value is 5 and the least value is -1. Okay, so the question asked us to write down the greatest and the least value. So the greatest value is equals to 5 and the least value is equal to -1. Simple. ठीक है, अब ये आप बगैर ग्राफ बनाए भी कर सकते थे, बट अगर ग्राफ बनाने को बोला हुआ ही है तो might as well draw the graph first before you do anything else. Okay, don't we do pi upon 2 then divide with 4 to get x coordinate on the step? No. So basically the formula to calculate the step is this. With sine and cos, we naturally take a step of 90 degrees. Okay, 90 degrees or pi upon 2. But because the coefficient of x is not 1, the coefficient of x is 2. So the step that we will take is pi upon 2, okay, which is what we take normally, divide by the coefficient of x, which gives us pi upon 4. Okay, so you'll find all this in detail in my notes, okay, which are available for free. Okay, so you can download them from the website mathletebysort.com. ठीक है, उसमें मेरा एक पूरा summarized एक sheet है जिसमें मैंने ये सब कुछ समझाया हुआ है. Because a lot of students mess this up. This. Okay, so with the help of this, you can pretty much solve any graph-related question. Okay, beta promotion उस चीज़ की होती है that's paid. Okay, this is free, so no promotion. All right, by considering the straight line y is equals to kx, where k is a constant, state the number of solutions of the equation 3 cos 2x plus 2, which is equal to kx, where k is equals to -3. Okay, so -3 means that it's going to be a downward sloping line. Okay, and if it's a downward sloping line, it's going to be something like this. It's going to be quite a steep line. So that means how many solutions do we have? 0 solutions. Okay, so we have 0 solutions. So shouldn't we move the graph from 1 to 3 on the y-axis? Graph moves up by 2. देखो, I don't recommend that you do it in bits and pieces. कि आप पहले 3 cos 2x बनाओ and then you move it. No, do it directly. ठीक है, you have a calculator which will do all the hard work for you. Okay, and you won't lose marks, so do it directly. ठीक है, ये जो shifting वाला होता है ना कि पहले ये बनाओ फिर इसको shift करो and all that stuff, it's going to cost you a lot of marks. It's going to cost you a lot of time and a lot of marks, and it's just going to leave you in a state of confusion, just like you are now. K is equals to 1. Now, if k is equals to 1, that means what kind of a line can we expect? We can expect an upward sloping line, so that's probably something like this. Okay, so acha, ek aur cheez. If k is equals to 1, that means the line is not going to be very steep. So when you extend it, you're likely to get more than one solution. Okay, when you extend it, you're likely to get more than one solution. Acha, ye iska pata kaise chalega? Here's, I'll tell you. So the way that you will find out is this. So we know that if we are making a line y is equals to x, okay, so if k is equals to 1, that means the line that we're drawing is basically y equals to x. Okay, so if you're drawing a line y equals to x, so that means you'll have a point 0, 0. Now, if you plug in pi is approximately 3 something, right? 3.14 something. So if you plug in pi, you will get the result as pi also, which is basically 3 point something. So that means it's going to be somewhere over here. So imagine that you draw a line joining these 2 points, which is basically the line y is equals to 1. Okay, and that is how you know that you will get 2 solutions. Okay, so for those of you who are wondering, okay, how will we know what the line will look like? This is how we know what the line will look like. Okay, so 0, 0 is 1 point, and pi will be the other point. Now pi is approximately 3 something, so you mark it accordingly, and then when you draw it, this is what you get. Okay, now k is equals to 3. Okay, so if k is equals to 3, that means we will have quite a steep line. Okay, so if k is equals to 3, we'll have quite a steep line. I mean, you can work it out. You can plug in, let's say, pi upon 2. You'll get 3 pi upon 2. 3 pi upon 2 is somewhere over here. Okay, and irrespective, you will get one solution. Okay, so k is equals to 3 will basically be a line y is equals to 3x. You know, you can mark any 2 points and make a rough sketch, and you will notice that you get one solution. Okay, now Also, can I draw directly on the given diagram in the question paper if V1? Do I need to redraw them separately? No, you don't have to redraw them separately. Just make sure that whatever diagram, whatever curve you draw using a pencil. So if you draw the lines for C, do we need to erase afterwards? Yes, it's a good line. It's a good idea to erase afterwards because we are just supposed to draw the graph here, and that's it. Okay. All right. Now, question number 5. How many of you got? So you don't know what the answer is, but I hope you guys got this question right. I hope you guys read this question carefully. For k equals to 3, can you explain it again? Okay, dekho. K equals to 3 means that the line that you're drawing is y is equals to 3x. Okay, the line that you're drawing is y is equals to 3x, correct? Now we can draw a line by plugging in points. The problem is that one point is pretty straightforward, 0, 0. But for the other point, if let's say I plug in pi upon 2, I will get 3 pi upon 2. Okay, what's 3 pi upon 2? Let's work it out. Or let's say we plug in pi upon 4. Not pi upon 2. Instead, we plug in, let's say, pi upon 4. So 3 pi divided by 4. So that's equal to 2.35 something. So that means when you plug in pi upon 4, so you get 2 something. So that means it's probably going to be somewhere over here. It's slightly greater than 2, right? So you get somewhere over here. And when you draw the line, this is what the line is going to look like. Okay, now you're not being marked for drawing the line. You're basically being marked to find out the number of solutions there are, to find out the number of intersections there are. How many intersections are there? There's just one point of intersection. So the answer is one solution. Simple as that. Okay? Okay, now question number 5. Each year, the selling price of a diamond necklace increases by 5% of the price the year before. So what is this? Is this AP or is this GP? No, it's not minus 3x. Minus 3 was the first part. Part 2 was positive 3. Part 3 was positive 3. This is GP. Why? Because if it's increasing by a certain percentage every year, that means it's basically a geometric progression. Okay? Now, what is the common ratio? The common ratio will be 100. Since it's increasing by 5%, that means plus 5 divided by 100. So R is equals to 1.05. Okay? So the common ratio is basically 1.05. Okay, now, the question is saying write down an expression for the selling price of the necklace n years later, not in the nth year, but n years later. So if you find yourself confused in questions like these, as in whether you should do n minus 1, whether you should do n plus, or whether you should do it as n, nothing to worry about. Okay, here's what you have to do. So basically the first term is the year 2000. Okay, so the second term is year 2001. Okay, so that means if the price in year 2000 is 36,000, okay, after 1 year it's going to be 36,000 into 1.05. Okay, ये table आप चाहो तो आप vertically भी बना सकते हैं. In fact, you know what? Let's draw it vertically. It will be much easier that way. So here's the price in the year 2000, which is equal to 36,000. Okay, so year 2, which would be 2001, okay, that would be 36,000 into 1.05. Okay, so this is 1 year later. 1 year later, we have multiplied it by 1.05. Okay, T3, that means 2002, that would be 36,000 into 1.05 into 1.05, or basically 1.05, the whole thing square. Why R is 1.05? बेटा आप लोगों का paper है ना second में को. If something is 100% and you increase it by 5%, then what's the new percentage? The new percentage would be 105 upon 100. Okay, so what happens when you increase something by 5%? If you increase something by 5%, so that means pehle wo 100 thi. Now, if you increase it by 5%, so that means now it's 105. And because you want the common ratio, so what's the common ratio? The common ratio is 100. यहाँ आप इसको इस तरह से देखो कि if let's say initially starting value is 100, if you increase it by 5%, so that would be 105. Okay, now what's the common ratio equal to? The common ratio is equal to the second term divided by the first term, which is equal to 1.05. Okay, so this is the first term, this is the second term. All right, and because it's increasing by 5%, so if you increase 100 by 5%, that would be 105. Okay, now, so 2 years later, what's the power that we have raised 1.05 to? We have raised it to the power of 2. So t power 4, that would be the year 2003. What will we raise 1.05 to? We will raise 1.05 to the power of 3. Okay, and this is basically 3 years later. So what about n years later? What do you think will happen after n years? So if I want the price of the necklace n years later, so that would be 36,000 into 1.05 raised to the power of n. Why? Because if you want the price 3 years later, you raise 1.05 to the power of 3. Okay, how did we figure that out? We figured it out with the help of a pattern. Don't look for a shortcut, don't look for a formula. If you use a shortcut, if you use a formula, you're just going to be confused. You wouldn't know whether you've done it correctly or not. Okay, so the price at the start is 36,000. The price after 1 year is 36,000 into 1.05 raised to the power of 1. The price after 2 years is 36,000 into 1.05 raised to the power of 2. The price after 3 years is 36,000 into 1.05 raised to the power of 3. So the price n years later would be 36,000 into 1.05 raised to the power of n. Okay, it's best that you do questions like these so that you understand what should the power be. Okay, because I'm pretty sure a lot of students would have done this as 36,000 1.05 raised to the power n minus 1, which is incorrect, obviously. Achha, then the question says, hence find the selling price in 2008. So how many years will it be till 2008? 2008 तक कितने साल हो जाएंगे? Count कर लो. 2008 तक आपको, question for you guys. How many years will it be? 9 years, that's correct. So that means 36,000 into 1.05. Now question, what should I raise it to the power of? Should I raise it to the power of 9 or should I raise it to the power of 8? Think about it. Think about it. Achha, if you can't think about it, if you can't come up with a solution, no problem. नहीं आ रहा ना समझ में, कोई बात नहीं. यहाँ से pattern identify कर लो. So if it's T4, if the year is 2003, what's the power? The power is 3. If the year is 2000, what's the power? The power is 2. If the year is 2008, what would be the power? If the year is 2008, what would be the power? The power would be 8. Simple as that. Okay, so जब भी ये word problem type questions आते हैं ना, please don't look for shortcuts, don't look for easy ways out. This is how you have to do it. Okay, so 36,000 into 1.05 raised to the power of 8. Okay, and please don't waste time looking for an explanation, looking for a shortcut, looking for a formula. Just identify the trend and that's good enough. So what do we have? We have, achha, is the question asking us to write the answer a certain way? No. So it's 53,188.39598, which correct to 3 significant figures will be 53,200. There you go. Okay. Now, part B. Part B says the company that makes necklace only sells one each year. Find the total amount of money obtained in the 10-year period starting in the year 2000. So this is fairly simple. It's asking you to find out the money obtained in the 10-year period. So what would be n? What would be the value of n? Question for you guys. सोचें और बताएं. 10? Are you sure about that? 10, 9, 11, think. Read the question carefully. 10 is correct. So because it's saying 10-year period, so that means the number of terms are basically 10. Okay, so you want the sum of 10 years, so n is simply 10. Okay, but what do you want? You want the total amount of money obtained. Okay, so we want basically the sum of the first 10 terms. Now what's the formula equal to? Sn is equals to a r is to the power n minus 1 over r minus 1. Okay, so what's a? 36,000. What's the common ratio? 1.05 raised to the power of 10 minus 1. Acha, if you didn't round it off correctly, then you are likely to lose. It's a good question. You're likely to lose 1 mark. Yeah, you will lose 1 mark because of lack of accuracy. Yes, you'll definitely lose 1 mark. So we get 36,000 into 1.05 raised to the power 10 minus 1 over 1.05 minus 1. So let's work this out. So you have 36,000 into 1.05 raised to the power of 10 minus 1, close the bracket, 1.05 minus 1. Can we write answer without rounding off? Beta, जो paper में instructions में लिखा हुआ है, so why would you want to not follow instructions? 452,804.1313. Your question paper says clearly that you are supposed to give final answers correct to 3 significant figures, so why are you playing with fire? So 453,000 will be the answer correct to 3 significant figures. So it said starting from the year 2000. Should it not be 11? No, okay. It doesn't say that from the year 2000 to 2010. If the question said the start from the year 2000 to 2010, that would mean 11 years. Okay, but it's asking you 10 years starting from 2000. So here, where you're starting from becomes irrelevant because 10 years means n is equals to 10. Simple as that. तो अब आप 2000 से start करो, आप 1800 से start करो, it really doesn't matter. If it's 10 years, it's 10 years. What does matter, the reason why you're given the starting year is so that you know what should be the first term. Because you're starting from the year 2000, so what's the value of the necklace in the year 2000? That's 36,000, so that is why you're given the year 2000. Okay. If you don't round off, okay, here's the thing. If you don't round off, you're giving the examiner a reason to cut your mark. Now, if the examiner doesn't cut your mark, consider yourself lucky. But you are giving the examiner a reason to cut your mark. Simple as that. Achha, you can use, okay. Now, the sum, there are 2 formulas for sum. Now, you can use any formula in any situation, it doesn't matter. Okay, so this is one formula, and the other formula is basically 1 minus r raised to the power n. Now, basically use this formula when the common ratio is basically less than 1. Okay, when it's greater than 0 and it's less than 1. Okay, or simply less than 1. But ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर आपने, let's say the common ratio is less than 1 and you ended up using this formula, you'll get it wrong. No, you still get it right. Okay, so you can use any sum formula, you'll still get it right. Yeah, exactly, because the minuses will cancel. Good job, Zaki. Okay, the diagram shows the graph y is equals to f of x, where f of x equals to 3 upon 2 cos 2x plus half. State the range of f. So plug in 0. You will have the maximum value, which by the way will be equal to. So let's work it out. F of 0 will give you the maximum value. So that would be 3 upon 2 cos 0 plus 1 upon 2. So that's equal to 2. Okay, and then the minimum value will be at pi upon 2. Okay, exactly in between pi and 0. And the minimum value will be, so for that you simply plug in pi upon 2 and you will get minus 1. Okay, so f of 0 gives you 2. F of pi upon 2 gives you minus 1. So the range is f of x is greater than or equal to minus 1, lesser than or equal to 2. There you go. Now, part B. Part B says the function g is such that g of x is equals to f of x plus k, where k is a positive constant. The x-axis is a tangent to the curve y is equals to g of x. State the value of k, hence describe fully the transformation that maps the curve y equals to f of x onto y equals to g of x. Now, if you want to make this curve tangent to the x-axis, what are you going to do? You're going to shift it up. Okay, so if you want to make the curve tangent to the x-axis, you're going to shift it up. Now, the question is, how many units are you going to shift this up? So if you move this curve, now notice that the minimum value at the moment is minus 1. If I want this curve to be tangent to the x-axis, that means I want this curve here. Okay, if I want this curve to be tangent to the x-axis, that means I want it here. So how do I get it up there? I get it up there by translating it. Okay, so I get it up there by translating it vertically by 1 unit. Simple as that. Okay, so what's the value of k? K is equals to 1. And what's the transformation? It's basically a translation. And when you write down translation, what are you supposed to write? You're supposed to write down the translation matrix, which is 0, 1. Simple as that. Okay. not minus 1, please. Okay, and don't use stuff like 1 up and stuff like that. Just write down the column vector, or say 1 unit parallel to the y-axis. Okay, now part C. State the equation of the curve, which is the reflection of y is equals to f of x in the x-axis. So how do you reflect something in the x-axis? You basically multiply the entire equation by minus. So this is what f of x looks like. F of x is equals to 3 upon 2 cos 2x plus half. 3 upon 2 cos 2x plus half. So multiplied by minus. So that would be minus 3 upon 2 cos 2x minus 1 upon 2. That's it. Job done. Okay, now find the volume generated when the shaded region. Achha, first let's read the entire question. No, you don't need to write it as vertical translation. Just write it as translation and then write 0, 1. Okay, I don't know if it's just me, but it's feeling kind of hot. What is the best way to write a transformation? What do you mean, what's the best way to write a transformation? Jo transformation hai, that's how you're supposed to write it. Just write down the transformation and how it's defined. Okay? So if it's a stretch, you write down the scale factor, and you also write down whether it's parallel to x or y axis. If it's translation, you write down the column vector. That's good enough. If it's reflection, you write down along which axis. So I wrote y minus 1. No, that's incorrect. अगर vertical translation लिख दें, 1 unit लिखा आपने? Did you write 1 unit up? If you did, that's great. If you didn't, then I wouldn't risk it. Honestly, I wouldn't risk it. I would strongly suggest that you just do it the way that it's meant to be done. Okay? No need to risk it unnecessarily. Yes, I do think this was a difficult paper. Okay, I definitely think, especially the functions question that's about to come, I think that was a difficult question. And I basically, on purpose, added lots of functions so that you guys can practice it also. Let me know if you guys want another mock in the coming days. We can only have it tomorrow or day after, otherwise, I mean, we don't have much time anyway. Find the volume generated when the shaded region is rotated 360 degrees about the y-axis. So what's the equation of the curve? Here it is. So how will you find out the volume of the shaded region? Volume of the shaded region basically, so what if let's say you wanted to calculate the area of the shaded region? So you will first calculate area between the curve and the y-axis. Then you will calculate the area between the line and the y-axis, and then you would subtract that. Okay, so if you want the volume, you will do it the same way. So the volume of shaded region is equals to the volume of curve. Now, volume of curve basically means the volume generated by the curve minus the volume of line. Now, you can use the cylinder approach. Okay, you can use the cylinder approach if you like, but I've kind of abandoned that cylinder approach because it doesn't have a lot of applications really. So, by the way, the equation of this line is x equals to 1, in case you're wondering. Now, sir, in this question, use volume of cylinder was way more practical. I agree in this question, but it doesn't have a lot of applications. So you're learning a trick which you really can't apply very often. That's why I've abandoned that approach. Anyway, so let's first focus on the curve. Okay, let's first focus on the curve. So what we're going to do is, since it's the y-axis, that means we will integrate x squared with respect to y. And what are the limits that we're going to use? The limits that we're going to use are basically 6 and 2. Okay, 6 and 2. So if you guys want another mock, so देख लें, ऐसा ना exams से पहले आप लोग demotivate हो जाएं. Should I make it difficult or should I make it easy? I think I should make it the next mock I should make it easy. So x is equals to 6 upon y, by the way. So that means this is going to be, if you square it, so that's going to be 36 upon y square. And the limits that you're going to be using are 2 and 6 with respect to y. So let's write it nicely. This is going to be 36 y raised to the power minus 2. I haven't integrated it yet. I've just written it in a way so that I can integrate it easily. So in a difficult, okay, if you guys say so. So 36 y raised to the power minus 2 plus 1. Divide by the new power, so that's minus 1. Okay. Within the limits, 6 and 2. Now, before I plug in the limits, I'd like to write this nicely. So I would prefer to write this as minus 36 upon y within the limits 6 and 2. So let's plug in the limits. So minus 36 upon 6. Okay, so that's the upper limit. Now let's plug in the lower limit. So that's minus 36 upon 2. So minus 36 upon 6, that's minus 6. And this will become plus. So what's minus 6 plus 18? That's equal to 12. Okay, and don't forget that you're supposed to multiply it by pi also. Okay, I forgot to write that down. There you go. Okay, now let's focus on the line. Ab line ke liye, you guys can use the cylinder approach. Okay, perfectly all right. But like I said, I've kind of abandoned that approach. Why? Because it doesn't have a lot of applications. So for the line, we are going to integrate the equation of the line, which is x equals to 1. So we're going to square 1 and we're going to integrate it within the limit 6 into 2. ठीक है, और cylinder से आपका वैसे कोई बहुत ही ज़मीन आसमान का फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता if you don't use the cylinder approach. Okay, it's still quite easy. So 6 minus 2, you know very well that's going to be pi. That's going to be 4, so 4 pi is the answer. Okay, but when there is an application, if you are aware of it, go ahead. If you're not, then don't use it. Okay, then don't waste time looking for the cylinder. So that's it, it's the home stretch. 12 pi minus 4 pi will give us the volume of the shaded region, and that's 8 pi. So I don't know why you guys have made a big deal about volume. I think it's quite easy. Sir, can you give us like 3 mocks? Are you serious? 3 mocks? Why I used 1? Because what's the equation of the line? The equation of the line is x equals to 1. Okay, so you make x the subject and then you square it. Like for example, here when we made x the subject, we got 6 upon y. Here when we made x the subject, we got 1. Okay? 8 pi aa raha hai, bilkul. That's correct. Sir, दूसरी line को नहीं use की. बेटा ज़रूरी थोड़ी है कि अगर line है तो उसको ज़बरदस्ती इस्तेमाल करें. जिस line से मतलब है उसी को इस्तेमाल करेंगे ना. yx square, that's the formula. Yx square, that is the formula. I mean, you should be aware of the formula by now, but if you're not, then, well, it's still not too late. You can go over the notes. All right, part B. The tangent to the curve at the point x is parallel to the line y plus 2x equals to 0. So if it's parallel to the line, parallel basically means same gradient. So y is equals to minus 2x. So that means the gradient is equals to minus 2. Show that x lies on the line y equals to 2x. अच्छा, सबसे पहले तो हम x के points निकाल लेते हैं. ठीक है? First of all, let's find out the coordinates of x. So what's the equation of the curve? The equation of the curve is y is equals to 6 upon x. Okay? So let's write this nicely so that we can differentiate it. So when you differentiate it, what do you get? dy upon dx is equals to minus 6 x raised to the power minus 2. Now what is dy by dx equal to according to the question? Dy by dx is basically equal to minus 2. Okay? Now let's simplify this. So we have x square is equal to सब सही किया मैंने, कुछ गड़बड़ तो नहीं की. Y is equals to 6 upon x. So yeah, minus 6 x raised to the power minus 2. That's correct. Since the tangent to the curve at point x is parallel to the line y plus 2x equals to 0, so that means it's equal to minus 2. Okay, so I think we're on the right track. Minus 6 minus 2, that's equal to 3. So x is equals to, how come we're getting 2 points? Plus minus 3. Does the question say anything about plus? अच्छा ठीक है, 3 ही तो आएंगे, सही है, 3 आएंगे. ठीक है, 3 आएंगे हमारे पास. Okay, now. अच्छा, then we are supposed to find out the y coordinate. So y is equals to what? Y is basically equal to 6 upon x. ठीक है? So y is equals to 6 upon plus minus root 3. Okay, y is equals to 6 upon plus minus root 3. So what's 6 upon plus minus root 3? Let's see. 6 divided by root 3, that's equal to 2 under root 3. So this is equal to plus minus 2 under root 3. So there you go. These 2 points do in fact lie on the line y equals to 2x. Okay, how do I know they lie on the line y equals to 2x? Because if you plug in x is equals to under root 3, then what you get as y is 2 under root 3. If you plug in x is equals to minus under root 3, then the y coordinate that you get is minus 2 under root 3. Okay, so that means the point x lies on the line y equals to 2x. Okay, so I'll explain this again. What will the coordinates, sir, since root plus x plus y coordinates, so we ignore negative sign with square root. देखो, the question says show that x, यहाँ पे, although the part of the curve that we're given is positive only, but question में ऐसा कुछ explicitly mentioned नहीं है कि जिससे हमें ये पता चले कि हमने सिर्फ उसको इग्नोर करना है, नेगेटिव वाले को इग्नोर करना है. I think the question should have been more straightforward, which it's not. Let me see if there's anything else from the question which can tell us what we have to do. I don't think there is. Okay, so I'll explain this again. Basically, the tangent to the curve at the point x is parallel to the line y plus 2x equals to 0. Now, if the tangent is parallel, that means the gradient is equal to the gradient of this line, which is minus 2. Okay, so how do I know that the gradient of this line is minus 2? So y is equals to minus 2x. Dekho, I agree that the graph does not show any negative value of x, but the question does not specify. देखो ग्राफ में नहीं दिया हुआ, इसका ये मतलब तो नहीं है ना कि है नहीं. I think the question should have been a bit more explicit. ठीक है, अभी इसकी, let me open up the marking scheme. Yeah, let me open up the marking scheme. Let's see what it says. But I'll explain this question anyway. So the x coordinate that we get after equating dy by dx to minus 2 is basically plus minus root 3. Okay, achha, why we did differentiation? Because you're given the gradient of tangent. Okay, so since you're given the gradient of tangent, so you basically equate dy by dx to minus 2. Okay, and how do we know it's a gradient of tangent? Because the line is parallel. इसकी examiner report sadly नहीं होगी because ये 2020 का paper है. खैर, anyway, so x is equals to plus minus root 3 when you take the square root. Now, you guys are saying that because this is only on the positive side, so we can ignore the negative side. I agree. I mean, that is a logical explanation, but a counter argument would be that there is nothing in the question other than that which says that we should not take the negative value. But chalo, because the हमें graph में ऐसा कुछ नहीं दिया हुआ, so we get the value of x, which is basically equal to under root 3. Now, if x is equal to under root 3, and if this point lies on the line y equals to 2x, so that means the y coordinate should be double of the x coordinate. Okay, because any point that lies on the line y equals to 2x, the y coordinate should be double of the x coordinate. So if I take y is equals to 6, if I find out the y coordinate, so what is 6 upon root 3? That is indeed equal to 2 under root 3. Okay, so basically any point that's on the line y is equals to 2x, उसके coordinates किस तरह के होंगे? उसके coordinates होंगे x, 2x. इस तरह के coordinates होंगे. Okay, and that is the case. The x coordinate is root 3 and the y coordinate is in fact 2 under root 3. Okay, so therefore the point x lies on the line y equals to 2x. अच्छा, जहाँ तक कि plus minus वाली debate है ना, okay, as far as this plus minus debate is concerned, let me ask a few of my colleagues. Let's see what they have to say. But I'm of the opinion that there's nothing where it says that x is greater than 0 or x is positive. ऐसा कुछ नहीं लिखा हुआ. तो okay, so I think it does make sense slightly. Okay, so it kind of does make sense. It says the tangent to the curve at point x. So that means it's probably talking about this curve only. And as far as this curve is concerned, we only see it on the positive side. Okay, so let's not get stuck. Okay, let's not get stuck. Let's move on. Let's do the next question. Let's see what it says. Now, so sir, to show, do we necessarily have to show the calculation, the gradient, use 2 points, show that it's equal to 2, find the y-intercept to be 0, give the equation. No, you don't have to find the equation. You just have to show that the y coordinate is basically twice the x coordinate. You're not supposed to find the equation or anything. The question doesn't say that. The question says that whatever point that you get, the point x, you're supposed to show that it lies on the line y equals to 2x. ठीक है, आपको equation जैसी कोई चीज़ नहीं निकालनी, आपने सिर्फ निकालना है कि जिस point पे gradient -2 है, वो basically कौन सा point है, वो ये point है. आपने दिखाना है कि ये point lie करता है on the line y is equals to 2x. That's it. Yes, I will do the same for P3, M1, S1 also. Don't worry. Okay, now question number 8. Let's see what this says. The equation of a circle with center C is x squared plus y squared. So this is a no-brainer. We can just do this easily. So x squared minus 8x, leave a bit of space, then write y squared, leave a bit of write plus 4y, leave a bit of space and take the constant across. Now, I know at this point you guys might say, okay, sir, iski to ek aur tarika bhi hai. So my answer is that if you're familiar with that method, use that method. No, there's no compulsion that you have to use my method. मैंने आपके paper check नहीं करने. Just make sure that your method is a legitimate method. That's all that matters. So we have x minus 4 the whole thing square plus y plus 2 the whole thing square is equals to 5 plus 16 plus 4. So that's 21. 21 plus 4, that's equal to 25, which means that the coordinates of the center are 4 comma negative 2 and r square is equals to 25, which means radius is equal to 5 units. There you go. Yeah, I think I did. No, I don't think I did this question. I did some other question. Or maybe I've done a stream on this also. I'm not too sure. But anyway, let's solve it. Let's see what it says. So it says, show that the point P 1, 2 lies on the circle. I have? Okay, great. Acha, how do we show that it lies on the circle? So that means its distance from the center should be equal to the radius. So this is the center, this is the point P. So that's 1, 2. Let's find out PC. PC should be equal to R. Let's see if it is. So that would be 1 minus 4 the whole thing square plus 2 minus minus 2 the whole thing square. 1 minus 4 is minus 3, square of which is 9. 2 minus minus 2 is 4, square of which is 16. So 9 plus 16 is in fact equal to root 25. Okay, and root 25 is equal to 5 units, which is equal to R. Therefore, P lies on the circle. Okay, so do give these statements in the end. Okay, do give these statements in the end. It's very important. So let me see if I should take another mock tomorrow or not. Let's not worry too much about it right now. We'll see when tomorrow comes. Okay. You are doing wrong? Nope, I don't think I'm doing it wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm doing it right. Anyway, now let's move on. Part C says, I read the question wrong. Show that the equation, show the point P lies on the circle. Oh, okay, you're right. I thought the question said, show that the point P 1, 2 lies on the circle. Okay, my bad. Thank you for pointing that out. Acha, this we're given, so we don't need to show. Oops. Show that the equation of the tangent to the circle at P is 4y equals to 3x plus 5. Okay. Sorry, my bad. So it would be a good idea to make a rough sketch. The coordinates of the center are 4, negative 2. अभी अगर मेरा पेपर होता तो मेरे 3 marks कट चुके होते. Acha, where's the point 1, 2? So the point 1, 2. Now, even when you're making a rough sketch, my advice would be to be as accurate as possible. So 1, 2 seemingly should be on the left and slightly above. Okay. So this is where the point P is. Okay. Acha, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to find the equation of the tangent to the circle at P. Okay. So notice that I've made maximum effort to be as accurate as possible. This is the center. Point P has x coordinate, which is lesser than the x coordinate of the center. So that means it's going to be towards the left. And since the y coordinate is greater, so that means it's going to be slightly above. That's all you have to be careful of. Okay. That it doesn't mean that you proper xy axis बनाएं और फिर solve करें. That's not the idea. So we're supposed to show that the equation of tangent to the circle at P is so and so. So first of all, let's find out the gradient. Let's find out the gradient of PC. So that would be 2 minus minus 2 upon 1 minus 4. So it's a downward sloping line, so it better have a negative gradient. So that would be 4 upon minus 3. That means the gradient of the tangent, because radius and tangent are perpendicular, so the gradient of tangent would be 3 upon 4. Now we need a point, so we're given that point, so that's P. So y minus 2 is equals to 3 upon 4 x minus 1. If the question doesn't specify, we can leave it here. It's good enough, but because here the question has a specific requirement, so we're going to fulfill that requirement. So 4y is equals to 3x minus 3 plus 8, that's equal to plus 5. There you go. Okay, now the point Q lies on, obviously you're right, I did solve this question recently. Okay. The point Q also lies on the circle and PQ is parallel to the x-axis. So if it's parallel to the x-axis, that means it is horizontal. So let's just quickly solve this part. So PQ, since it's parallel to the x-axis, that means it's got to be a horizontal line. And if it's parallel to the x-axis, that means while the x-coordinate may change, the y-coordinate will definitely not change, okay? Now, how do you find out the x-coordinate? What you can do is you can be a little smart. You can see that the center, at the center, the x-coordinate will be 4, okay? So at the center, the x-coordinate will be equal to 4. So what you can do is you can use the midpoint method, meaning that the x-coordinate of the midpoint is equal to 4. And you know the x-coordinate of P, you don't know the x-coordinate of Q. So you can do 1 plus x upon 2 is equal to 4, which means 1 plus x is equals to 8, which means x is equals to 7. Okay, now there are multiple methods. You can plug in Q into the equation of the circle. You will have 2 points. One of them would be 1, the other would be 7, so you can take 7. So there are many ways that you can do it. So ultimately, the coordinates of Q are 7, 2. Okay? The tangents to the circle at P and Q meet at T. Find the coordinates of T. Okay, so let's copy this, bring it here. 6. What do you mean 6? Did I do something wrong? If yes, please let me know. Yeah, 4 comma 17 upon 4, that is correct. So the coordinates of the center are 4 comma minus 2. Okay, here's the point Q, which we know has coordinates 7 comma 2. Okay, according to the question, the tangents meet. Because this line is horizontal, okay, then that means when the tangents meet, they will basically meet at a point that's vertically above the center. Okay, so when the tangents meet, they will meet at a point which is basically vertically above the center. Okay, and that's basically this point T right here. Now, if this is vertically above the center, so that means the x coordinate will remain the same. Okay, so the x coordinate will remain the same. So that's 4. What about the y coordinate? We don't know that. Now notice we already have the equation of this tangent. We know that this is equal to 4y equals to 3x plus 5. Now on this, there is a point where x is equals to 4. So 4y is equals to 3 times 4 plus 5. So that means 4y is equals to 12 plus 5. That's 17. Y is equals to 17 upon 4. There you go. Okay. All right. Now, question number 9. The function f and g are defined by so-and-so. Yeah, you can do this through point of intersection also. Like, for example, you can find out the equation of this tangent. Okay, you already have the equation of this tangent. Solve them simultaneously. You will have the point of intersection, which will give you the coordinates of t. The function f and g are defined by so-and-so. Express f of x in the form of x minus a, the whole thing square plus b. So we write x squared minus 4x. We leave a bit of space. We write 3. So you do plus 2 squared here, and then you do minus 2 squared. नहीं उससे भी आंसर आ जाएगा. मैंने इसको अपनी एक स्ट्रीम में सॉल्व किया था. उसमें I solved this using both the methods, so we were getting the same answer. Irrespective of the method you use, you get the same answer. Okay? All right, so there you go. X minus 2, the whole thing, square minus 1. That's the answer to the first part. Okay, now part B. It is given that f is a one-to-one function. Okay, f is a one-to-one function. Now, it's always a good idea to make a rough sketch. Okay, you'll find this in the examiner report multiple times. कि वो बोल रहे rough sketch बना लो, it'll give you a better perspective, you'll be able to understand the question better, and obviously you'll be able to answer the question better. Now, what function is this? This is a quadratic function, and the coordinates of the turning point are 2, 1. So that means it's probably turning somewhere over here. So this is what we're looking at. A very rough sketch. Now, how do I make sure this is a one-to-one function? To make sure that a quadratic function, which by default, by nature, is a many-to-one function, in order to turn this into a one-to-one function, what you have to do is either take the part that is before the x-coordinate of the turning point or take the part that is after the x-coordinate of the turning point. Now, because it says x is greater than, so we don't have the option to decide whether to take greater than or lesser than. That means the only possible option that we have is x is greater than 2. Oh yeah, 2 comma minus 1. That's correct. 2 comma minus 1. So we got away with it because we got the x-coordinate of the turning point right. There we go. 2 comma minus 1. Okay. It is given that c is equals to 5. Find an expression Yeah, you're right. The turning point will be 2 comma minus 1. I fixed it. Find an expression for f inverse of x and state the domain. Now remember, domain is basically the range of f. Domain of f inverse is basically the range of f. ठीक हो गया? अच्छा, अब ये क्वेश्चन बहुत अच्छा है क्योंकि उसने हमसे क्या किया? उसने हमसे कंप्लीटिंग स्क्वायर में ऑलरेडी एक्सप्रेस करा लिया. Sir, writing 2. Achha, actually, the answer of this is c is equals to 2. Okay, so the final answer of this is c is equals to 2. So x is greater than 2, तो मैं आप लोगों को समझाने के लिए बता रहा था. The final answer will be c is equal to 2. Okay, so this is y is equals to y plus 1 is equals to x minus 2 the whole thing squared. So we take the square root on both sides. So we have x minus 2 is equals to plus minus square root of y plus 1. Now, jaldi se batao, are we going to go with plus or are we going to go with minus? Question for you guys. Are we going to go with plus or are we going to go with minus? So f inverse of x is equals to plus minus square root of x plus 1 plus 2. देखो अगर आपने c direct 2 लिख दिया, so that's great, nothing to worry about. I always emphasize on making a rough sketch because it gives you a better perspective. Yes, we're going to go with plus. Okay, we're going to go with plus. Achha, why are we going with plus? Because since we want to write down the domain of f inverse will be the range of f. What's the range of f? The range of f is greater than minus 1. Okay, so the range of f of x is greater than or equal to minus 1. So that means the domain would be greater than or equal to minus 1. There you go. देखो ग्राफ बनाना हरगिज़ ज़रूरी नहीं है. मैंने कब कहा कि ग्राफ बनाना ज़रूरी है? But हम ग्राफ इसलिए बनाते हैं because it gives us a better perspective. That's the only reason why we make a rough sketch. Okay, especially when it comes to function and in functions when it comes to domain and range, and especially when it comes to equation of circles. When it comes to equations of circles, it is very important that you make a rough sketch. Okay. Acha, it says C is 5. Oh, okay. I didn't see that. C is equal to 5. Thank you for pointing that out. So if C is 5, okay. So in that case, I think it would be a great idea if you make a rough sketch. Okay. So if C is 5, so that means let's plug in 5. So f of 5 क्या आ रहा है? F of 5 आएगा 5 minus 2, the whole thing square, minus 1. So 5 minus 2 is 3, square of which is 9. 9 minus 1 is 8. So that means when you plug in 5, you get 8. So plugging in 5 gives you 8. Okay. So if plugging in 5 gives you 8, and if C is equal to 5, that means now only this part of the curve is valid. Okay. So if this part of the curve is valid, so that means the range of f of x is greater than or equal to 8. And the range of f becomes the domain of f inverse. So that means the domain now will be greater than or equal to 8. ठीक है? So thank you for pointing that out. जिसने भी point out किया था, इब्राहिम नहीं, उससे पहले वानिया. So thank you. No, not greater than or equal to. Because c, x is greater than or equal to, achha, x is greater than c. Yeah, you're right. Since x is greater than c, so that means I thought it was greater than equal to. You're right, greater than. So this would also be greater than. ठीक है. So this becomes invalid. Okay. Yeah, it should be greater than. You're right. Okay, find an expression for g of f of x and hence state the range of gf. Now this is actually one of my, whoever pointed it out, thank you, I appreciate it. This part is actually one of my favorite questions. Ye wala. G of f of x. So first of all, let's find out g of f of x. Reason why I like this question is because there's absolutely no formula that you can use over here. Okay? There's absolutely no formula that you can use over here. All you have to do is use common sense. So g of f of x, that would be 1 upon x square minus 4x plus 3 plus 1. Okay, so g of f of x is equals to 1 upon x square minus 4x plus 4. Let me double check. Yeah, seems correct. Okay, now you're supposed to find out the range of g of f. Okay, so how will you find out the range? Now let's write this like this. G of f of x is basically 1 upon f of x plus 1. Correct? This is what g of f of x basically is. Achha, remember one thing. If you use the completed square version, that's also all right. Okay, if you use the completed square form, that's also all right. Achha, remember this rule that the range of the inner function becomes the domain of the outer function. Okay, so the range of the inner function becomes the domain of the outer function. Okay, so something that we learn about composite functions. Achha, what's the range of f? The range of f of x is basically greater than 8. Correct? So this information applies to both the parts. So this information applies to part C and it applies to part D. Now you can use the completed square form also. That's perfectly all right. Usse koi masla nahi hai. Okay, now remember the range of f is greater than 8. So let's do a bit of trial and error. Let's take f of x to be equal to 8 for a second. So that would be 1 over 8 plus 1. So that's equal to 1 upon 9. Now I know we can't take it 8 because we can't take it as 8. It's supposed to be greater than 8. But just for the sake of understanding just for the sake of seeing a trend. If I take it as 9, it would be 1 over 9 plus 1, which is basically equal to 1 upon 10. Okay, and if I continue along this road and suppose I take, because there is no upper limit to f, okay, there is no upper limit. So if I take it as infinity, so what will happen is you'll have 1 upon infinity plus 1, which is basically as good as 1 upon infinity. And what's that equal to? That's approximately equal to 0. Okay, so what's the range? What is the range? The range is that it's greater than 0. Okay, it's not equal to, it's greater than 0. And what is it less than? It's less than 1 upon 9. Okay, so what's the range? The range of g of f of x is that it's greater than 0 and it's less than 1 upon 9. Okay, there's absolutely no formula, no trick, no nothing to it, to this question. You have to do it like this. And look at the amount of space that you're given. Okay, अब सोचने वाली बात है ना, ये तो चलो मैंने यहाँ पे paste किया है, but if I remove it, once you have the composite function, okay, once you form the composite function, which is right here, look at the amount of space that you have. Okay, so this is basically all the space you need to find out g of f of x, and then look at the amount of space that you have. What do you have all this space for? किस लिए ऐसी drawing करने के लिए तो नहीं है ना ज़ाहिर है. You have this space for trial and error so that you can plug in values, identify a certain trend, and then come up with the answer. It's as simple as that. ठीक है. अच्छा मुझे बस 1 मिनट देना. I'm just gonna grab some water. काफ़ी देर से सोच रहा हूँ, but I think अब जाके पी ही लूँ. So just give me 1 minute, okay? Okay. No, this is not the last mock. I'll definitely take another mock. Now, let's solve this. So it says, find f of x, the integral of f of x, within the limits infinity and 1. Now, once again, please don't freak out when you see infinity. It's a piece of cake, okay? It's a piece of cake. And by the way, I hope you guys are aware that this is part of the syllabus. I hope nobody's thinking, that I'm playing a prank on you guys or something like that. This is something that's part of the syllabus. Yes, given it's something that's not tested very often, but it's part of the syllabus. Okay, so first let me solve this, then I'll tell you guys what a good score is. Okay, so we have to integrate f of x within the limits 1 and infinity. So that means we have to integrate 2. Okay, I'm just going to write this nicely. X plus 2, the whole thing raised to the power minus 2 within the limits 1 and infinity. Okay, now let's start integrating. So 2x plus 2. For those of you who don't know how this concept works, please watch my integration stream. I've covered it in maybe the second part. I'm not too sure. Okay, but make sure that you watch it. So you integrate the way that you do it normally, and then you plug in the limits, infinity and 1. Now before you plug in the limits, let's just write it nicely. So this would be minus 2 upon x plus 2 within the limits, infinity and 1. Okay. So imagine that you have 2 slices of pizza और आपने वो पूरे कराची में distribute करने. So आपको क्या लगता है आपके हिस्से में कितना आएगा? So this is with the upper limit plugged in. Now let's plug in the lower limit. So that's minus 2 over 1 plus 2. That's equal to 3. Okay, so can you recheck 9 part D? Yep, 9 part D is correct. It is correct. It's greater than 0, less than 1 upon 9. Sir, last question, last part. How were you sure tangents and P and Q cut vertically above? You chose x coordinate. Because the 2 tangents that meet at an external point are equal in length. Okay, that's a rule. That's a rule that we learned from. O level math. So the answer is 0. Okay, the answer is 0. Because if you plug in infinity, and because infinity is in the denominator, so what's anything divided by infinity? What's anything divided by, let's say, 100 million? So if it's a small value like it is over here, then you will get 0. Okay, so 0 minus minus 2 upon 3 is basically equal to what? Is basically equal to 2 upon 3. ठीक है. अच्छा, अब ये किसको doubt हो रहा है question 9 part D में? बेटा question 9 part D, the answer is correct. Okay, I know I have a tendency of making errors, but this I can guarantee that this is correct. Okay, and if you're asking me why I've plugged in infinity, because f of x is greater than 8. There is no limit to f of x. Okay, and remember, now the range of f of x becomes the domain of this composite function. Okay, so remember this rule, Redo, range of inner function becomes the domain of the outer function. Okay, so the function that you're now plugging in, the range of that function becomes the domain. So the range of f is greater than 8, so that means there is no upper limit to it, so we can plug in infinity just to see what happens to the overall function. Okay? Now, yes, it's a good idea to write infinity. Okay, it's a good idea to write it. The equation of a curve is such that dy by dx is equals to f of x. It is given that minus 1 lies on the curve. Find the equation of the curve. Okay, so we will have to first integrate it. So if dy by dx is equals to 2 x plus 2, the whole thing raised to the power minus 2. So we integrate both sides. Y is equals to 2 x plus 2 raised to the power minus 1 divided by the new power. I did this question in the stream. Yeah, I might have. Now you plug in minus 1. So this simplifies, and now you have minus 1 over x plus 2 plus c. Let's make sure we've done everything correctly. Divide by the new power. Yep, looks good. Sorry, no, wait a minute. Divide by the new power is going to be minus 1. The new power is going to be minus 1. So this becomes minus 2 over x plus 2. There's no point in expanding the bracket. You'll just end up wasting a lot of time. So minus 1 is equal to minus 2 over minus 1 plus 2. So minus 1 plus 2 is 1 plus c. So c is equals to what? C is equals to 1. That means the equation of the curve is y is equals to minus 2 over x plus 2 plus 1. There you go. Okay, let me double check, make sure that I've done everything correctly. So you add 1 to the power, divide by the new power, minus 2 over x plus 2 plus c, y is equals to minus 1, x is equals to minus 1. So yep, we've done it correctly. Okay. Now, question number 11 and 12. So after question number 11, we'll have the last question. The coordinates of the point on the curve where the gradient is 4 upon 3. So coordinates of the point, so that means it's a single point. So we have y is equals to 2 plus square root of 25 minus x square. Now we know that we have to differentiate it, so might as well write this nicely. So y is equals to 2 plus 25 minus x square raised to the power of half. Okay. So dy by dx is equal to 0 plus 1 upon 2 into 25 minus x square into half minus 1, which is minus half, multiplied by minus 2x. Okay, so this and this cancels. Let's see, what do we have? We have dy by dx, which is equal to, let's write this nicely, minus x upon square root of 25 minus x square. Okay, acha. Then the question says, okay, the gradient of the point on the curve is 4 upon 3. So we equate dy by dx to 4 upon 3. So minus x over 25 minus x square. Let's see. So first of all, we will have to square both sides. Okay, so we'll have to square both sides so that we can get rid of the square root. So this is 16 upon 9, which is equal to x square over 25 minus x square. Now let's cross multiply. So 16 into 25, that's equal to 400. Won't we take 4? Why would I take 4? Okay, khair. So let's cross multiply. So we have 400 minus 16x square is equals to 9x square. Okay. So now we have 25x square is equal to 400, which means x square is equals to 400 divided by 25, that's equal to 16. So that means x is equals to plus minus 4. So let's see, the question says find the coordinates of the point on the curve at which the gradient is 4 upon 3. अच्छा, interesting. हमारे पास दो values आ रही हैं, ठीक है? And what's the corresponding y coordinate? Let's see if there's anything that's mentioned in the question where we know that we only have to take the positive value. The corresponding y value is y is equals to 2 plus 25 minus x square. So 2 plus, achha, here's the thing. If you take, in this case, whether you take, because it's x square, so whether you take plus 4 or minus 4, so ultimately you get the same answer. So 25 minus 16, 25 minus 16 is 9, 9 plus 2 is equals to 2 plus 25 minus 16 is 9, square root of which is 3, 3 plus 2 is equals to 5. So that means y is equals to 5. Okay, now, achha, what did the question say? The question said find the coordinates of the point. The question did not say points. So, iska jawab, is there anything in the question which says that we will take positive 4 and negative 4? Let's plug it back into the equation. So if you plug in back into the equation, in both cases you will get the same answer. Achha, nahi, wait a minute. If you plug it back into dy by dx, yeah. So because you're getting two values of x, plus and minus 4, if you plug this back into dy by dx, only one value will give you the correct answer. Okay, so dy by dx at x is equals to 4. Let's see what that is. So dy by dx at x equals to 4 means minus 4 into square root of 25 minus 16. So that's equal to minus 4 upon 3. Okay, so that's not the correct answer. The correct answer you will get when you plug in minus 4. Okay, so pick hints from the question. The question said point. Okay, if you wrote both, then you will lose 1 mark for sure. So dy by dx at x equals to minus 4 gives you the correct answer as per the question, which is 4 upon 3. So that means the correct coordinates are minus 4, comma 5. These are the correct coordinates. Okay, dekho, question se hint pick karo. The question says find the coordinates of the point So the question did not say find the coordinates of the points. If it said of the points, so we will, just give both the answers without having to worry about it. But if the question says find the coordinates of the points, so that means even if you're getting 2 points, we have to pick one. Okay, and how do we decide to pick one? There's nothing in the question, like for example, the question does not say x is greater than 0 or positive or anything of that sort. So now we have to think outside the box. So once we have the 2x values, let's plug them back into the equation and see which one gives the correct answer. So what's that, sir? Please listen, man. Important question. I draw the graph for range. In some cases, with other powers, I cannot draw them. What do I do? For range, you have to get friendly with the function. I've mentioned this multiple times, that you have to come to good terms with the function, and you have to plug in values. You have to identify a trend, and only then can you identify the range. Don't look for a shortcut. The sketching part will help you in the case of a quadratic curve, but that's about it. Sir, it says the gradient is 4 upon 3 plus 4. Yeah, I do agree. That's why we ignored plus 4. Okay, that's why we ignored plus 4. What's a good score on this paper? Let's finish this paper, then I'll tell you what is a good score. Okay? All right. Find CD in terms of r and theta. Okay, so let's see how we can find out CD in terms of r and theta. So what's CD? CD is this length. So if I can somehow find out this length, then in that length, I just have to add r. Okay? Now, it will not give you the same answer. If you plug in 4, you will get negative 4 upon 3. If you plug in minus 4, you'll get positive 4 upon 3. Okay, ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है same आएगा? If you plug in 4, you will get a negative value. If you plug in negative 4, you will get a positive value because negative negative will make it positive. Okay, so CD in terms of r and theta. Now, this is 90 degrees, correct? What we want is the hypotenuse. Okay, what we're given is the opposite. So that means we can use sine. So sine theta is equals to opposite over hypotenuse, which is basically OC. So OC is equal to r upon sine theta. Okay, and since you want CD, CD is basically equal to r upon sine theta plus r. There you go. Okay, now, wait, we have so much space. Achha. It is now given that r is equals to 4 and theta is equals to 1 upon 6 pi. Find the perimeter of the sector CAB in terms of pi. Okay, so let's take a picture of this. Let's paste it here. Now, the perimeter of the sector CAB, and you're given that r is equals to 4 and theta is equals to 1 upon 6 pi. Okay, so if you're given the radius, that means with the help of the radius, you can find out CD. Okay, so the question made you find out CD, which is basically equal to r upon sine theta plus r, so 4 upon sine pi by 6 plus 4. And what will this be equal to? CD is basically equal to capital R, meaning CD is basically equal to the radius of the big sector that you see. So the capital R is equal to 12, I think. Let me just double check. 4 over sine pi upon 6. Make sure that your calculator is in radian mode. So 4 upon sine pi upon 12 plus 4. So that's equal to pi upon 6. Pi upon 6. Yeah, so r is equals to 12. So that means the radius of this big sector is equals to 12. Okay, so this will also be the radius since it's from the center to a point on the circumference, and this will also be the same, and that's equal to 12. Now you want the perimeter of the sector CAB. So perimeter, remember, is equals to r plus r theta, and this entire angle will be equal to 2 pi upon 6, which is equal to pi upon 3. So the perimeter is equals to 12 plus 12 times pi upon 3. Okay, so what's that equal to? That's equal to 24 plus 4 pi. That's it. Okay, find the area of the shaded region in terms of pi and root 3. Okay, so let's come up with an equation which will give us the area of the shaded region. Okay, planning is very important. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, something I say very often. So area of shaded region can basically be found by first finding out the area of Okay, so first let's find out half the area of the shaded region. क्या ख्याल है? We can find out the area of the triangle, and from that we can subtract this. Okay, now the question is that where will we get this from? So this is 90, okay, radius and tangent. This the question has given us to be pi upon 6. Let's double check. Yeah, pi upon 6. So we can work out this angle by doing pi minus pi upon 2 minus pi upon 6. So let's see what do we get. 1 minus 1 upon 2 minus 1 upon 6. So we get 1 upon 3. So we get pi upon 3. Okay, and what's r equal to? R is equal to 4. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. I'm finding out the area of the triangle minus area of the sector. So that will give me half the area of the shaded region. Achha, how will I find out the area of the triangle? We worked out OC. OC was equal to r upon sine theta. So that means OC is equals to 4 upon sine pi upon 6, which is basically equal to 8. Okay, so OC is equals to 8. So area of triangle OFC minus area of sector. Okay, so area of triangle OFC, how will we figure that out? So we can figure that out by using half AB sine C. So 1 upon 2 into 4 into 8 into sine pi upon 3. Okay, and from this, let's subtract the area of the sector, which is equal to half r squared theta. So half r squared theta. Okay, and remember, we will then have to multiply it by 2 because this equation, this gives us only half the area of the shaded region. So 1 upon 2 into 4 into 8 into sine of pi upon 3. Okay, use your calculator for this. So this is equal to 8 under root 3. Okay, don't forget 2 waiting outside. Minus 16. 16 upon 2 is 8. So this will be 8 pi upon 3. Now you multiply. Let's see what you get. You get 16 under root 3 minus 16 upon 3 pi. Let's see if this is the correct answer. This is the correct answer. 16 root 3 minus 60 pi upon 3. Okay, that brings us to the end of the paper. So I think I wouldn't classify this as an easy paper. For sure, this was not an easy paper. The functions question was difficult. The circular measure question was easy. The AP-GP question was slightly difficult. The GP question, sorry. The binomial question was more or less the same. So I wouldn't classify this as a very easy paper, but I would also not classify this as a very difficult paper. So I would say that if you want an A in this, you should aim for 65 or above. 65 or above will get you an A. Acha, what about the next mock? When should we keep the next mock? Last answer recheck. I have checked it. It's correct. 16 under root 3 minus 60 pi upon 3. All right. So should we keep the next mock tomorrow? What time? Thursday? I don't suggest that you... Okay, Thursday I wouldn't... I'm not going to keep a mock on Thursday. Okay, Thursday I would probably not do anything at all. Maybe I'll just make a good luck video or something, but Thursday I don't think I'm going to take a test. We might discuss a paper or something, but Thursday is not a good idea to keep a mock. Tomorrow, chalo, let's keep it tomorrow. So I'll announce on my Instagram. Stay tuned. I'll announce on my Instagram and I'll also post on my channel. Okay, yes, this stream will be available. Don't worry. So 10 p.m. 10 p.m. Is that a good idea? No, 10 p.m. we can discuss. We can keep it early in the day, and at 10 p.m. we can discuss. We can do it like that. Okay. Friday morning. I hope you're joking. So anyway, I'll stop here. Let's keep a mock tomorrow. And jate aate, if you guys haven't, I'll announce on my Instagram. Okay, I'll post on my Instagram and I'll post on my YouTube channel also as to when I'm keeping the mock. But I think it's going to be more or less the same time. Okay. So yeah, jate aate, if you haven't liked the channel, liked the stream, I would appreciate you do that. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that. बेटा चैट आप नहीं पढ़ा करो. I don't want to disable the chat. ठीक है, अगर जो चीटिंग कर रहा है उसका लॉस है. They're only fooling themselves, you know, they're not really fooling anyone else. Okay, so that's it fellas. See you guys inshallah in the next stream. So take care everyone. Allah Hafiz. I'll upload this solved PDF in the same folder.